Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode 96. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here for this Friday show. Dave, day one of the 2022 NFL Combine is in the books with the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends working out Thursday at Indy. Glad to have the Combine back. Glad to talk about it with you.
Absolutely. And tell me the truth. Have you been measuring your hand today?
A lot of people on Twitter have been, and I think most of them now think they can be NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, at least when it comes to hand size and hand size only. I have not partaken in that exercise. There's no need for me to do so, but that was, I mean, look, it's been the talk with Kenny Pickett for some time now, and what it come in at 8.5, I think was the official tally on that.
Yeah, 8.5 inches for Kenny Pickett, one of the smallest hand sizes recorded in Combine history, and I believe the smallest since Mike Vick, who also had 8.5-inch hands. So a very tiny number for Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, and look, it's just going to. He's in my opinion, he's the top quarterback in this draft class, especially when it comes to NFL, most NFL ready. And I think Daniel Jeremiah probably said it the best during the telecast during the Thursday night telecast was, either it's going to be an issue for teams or it's not. And, I imagine, he seems to think that there will be a team or two or a few that would pull him off the board because of that. And others, it wouldn't be a big deal. And, Kevin Schobert obviously talked about that, a week and a half ago or whatnot. And, didn't sound like that was an issue with him overall there. So, I mean, look, either you can play or you can't. Obviously, Kenny Pickett, played his college football at Pitt. In the cold weather, one glove, two gloves, however many gloves, and he'll probably use that, do that same thing at the NFL level there. So once again, I think it just comes down to which teams is it an issue for, and which teams is it not an issue for. I still expect him to probably be the first quarterback off the board, and probably somewhere in that top six picks, I would guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect his draft stock at all. I think he's still going to be a first-round guy. I don't know if he'll go quite that high. I think he'll be, my guess, the second quarterback off the board. I still think Malik Willis will be first. I think it'll be in that top 15-ish range for Kenny Pickett, probably in that 10 to 15 spot if I had to guess right now. I don't want to say it's no deal, because anytime you're talking about historical outliers, it's always a conversation point. But I don't think it's going to move the needle too much. I know he's had a lot of fumbles at Pitt, but you'd have to go through the tape and look at what the issue there actually was. Was it carriage of the football? Was it freak things? How were those attributed? What was the makeup of those fumbles? So I think that's the most worthy thing to look at and think about, but you have to do a deeper tape study into that. And for Pittsburgh, it seems to be a non-issue, and that's really what's most important here. Kevin Schobert really dismissed the idea of hand size being an outlier or threshold that the team would cross Pickett off the list. And so for the purposes of does this impact the Steelers, I would say it has next to no impact, because he played a Pitt.
All right, so we've already, here we are in this thing early here. Obviously already talking about the quarterback position. Pickett and Malik Willis are two names we've already mentioned there. What did you learn, if anything, about the quarterbacks Thursday night?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a lot that I learned that felt brand new. A lot of the Combine is just what you see on tape usually is what you see represented at the Combine. Guys don't change their stripes that much overall. It was good to see, though. I thought Carson Strong, who struggled with a deep ball in Mobile, looked really strong at Indy on Thursday. And, of course, being in a dome environment and not in the elements and things like that's going to make the quarterback's arm and deep ball look better. But that was good to see him kind of bounce back after struggling in Alabama. Sam Howell, I thought, did well. He threw the best, quick 5-yard out. I thought just consistently on the line, no arc, accurate, leading receivers to the sideline. His placement overall, I thought, was strong. And I think he had the hardest throw of any of the quarterbacks, 259 miles per hour. Willis, I thought, was a bit shaky in his accuracy. Some of the post corner stuff he was throwing, I thought he was kind of spotty. Certainly showed the arm and the traits, which is what's going to get him drafted. But you see some of the hesitation with Willis and not being all in on him necessarily, and some pause, and why people think, myself included, that he'll have to probably sit for at least the season before he can hit an NFL field. And so last thing, Desmond Ridder testing extremely well, 4.5, 40, 36-inch vert, 10.7 broad at 211 pounds. Probably underrating his athleticism. He certainly displayed that at the combine.
Before we get into and there really wasn't much that stuck out to me. Well, I'll go ahead and hit that real quick. And really the only thing, and I enjoyed that session where they got to air it out and all. And it's not that I didn't know Malik Willis could rip it deep like that and all. The thing is there's just not a lot of tape of him ripping it that deep, in the last 2 years at Liberty. And I think the official stat that I pulled from Sports Info Solutions not too long after that deep throwing session was he was 2 of 5. I think the last 2 of 5 or 3 of 5. I think
2 of 5 was your tweet.
Yeah, 2 of 5 on the last 2 seasons at Liberty on air yard balls of 45 yards or more past the line of scrimmage. And it sounds a little bit low on attempt wise. Not that I think there was that I can think of 14 or 15 of them. I'll take their word for it because that's what they're paid to do on that kind of stuff. But I do not remember, however, a lot of throws, I guess what I'm saying, of those deep variety type. Not that I didn't think he could wing it that far. It's just good to see him, have a session of being able to uncork it like that. And then, some nice balls in there. There were a couple of those late in that session. Hope people stayed up late to watch the end of that, because there were him and Carson Strong really, almost had a throw off. It looked like, on some deep passes. I think the longest one was 58, 59 yards by Malik. I think that was a, nice deep ball down the field. And I think he had a 56, and I think Carson had one 56, and that's from launch point, not from past the line of scrimmage there. So, keep that in mind also there. But really, the only takeaway, like I said, about the whole quarterbacks and look, I thought Ridder, as you stated, showing that athleticism was good. So that might be another thing. They're just getting a good full picture of that athleticism. Boy, him and Pickett ran very consistent 40-yard dashes with not much time in between each run. So I thought that was impressive in and of itself, that, they didn't have much time to recoup from their first run. They turn around and run almost identical times there. In fact, I think Ritter's second time was point, what was just,
100th faster, 4.49.
Yeah. Than his first one there. So just being able to see Willis air it out like that, it was just more kind of confirmation to it. Now, with that, why, and I suppose, Thursday night didn't change this to you. Why exactly do you have Willis over Pickett?
Just for the highs, the dynamic plays he can provide. Like I said on a previous show recently, if you're always taking a gamble, always taking a risk. And I say this without having done a deep dive into Pickett yet, but I imagine Willis will probably still be number 1 or above Pickett for me. And I understand his negatives, and I'm not 100% all in necessarily on Willis. But to your point, to your question, just the big plays and in the run game and in the pass game, ability to throw off platform and have that rocket arm that can make those wow plays. I think that's required in today's NFL. The top quarterbacks all do that. And the guys who are more steady, that's important. And I certainly value consistency, but you got to bring the wow big play, and I think Willis does that more than any other quarterback in this class. All
right, now here's where I am on Pickett versus Willis, and I think all the traits are obviously there's a lot of good, very nice traits with Willis in general. Obviously he's he has a tendency to drift back, and try to throw off that back foot way too many times. Just, and we both agree that whatever team drafts him better be prepared to let him sit a year too, right? Or at least most of his rookie season. So that's where I think what dings his value more so than a guy like Pickett. I think Pickett's more what you see is what you get right now. I'm not saying that he can't progress some at the NFL level, but I think with Willis, it's more of, okay, those traits are there. Can they all be brought together? And make no mistake about it, that, at Liberty, that offense was very, very simple. And I heard Greg Cosell say this in two different interviews this past week as well, too. It's, how, his traits are fine. His traits are there. The upside with the traits is there. It's just, are you going to be able to maximize his traits and and maximize the things maybe that aren't there as far as reading defenses and going through progressions and learning the ins and outs of defenses and offensive schemes, because he's got a lot of learning to do on that front, a lot of learning to do.
Yeah. I think most of these quarterbacks do. Pickett, I think, is an exception, but most of these quarterbacks are coming from the RPO simplified offensive world.
Right. Well, I really view his as a very, very kind of, simple one. And a lot, look, I mean, he was because of his athleticism, because of those traits that he has, it allowed him to do several things, right?
It didn't need to be complicated because he was just so darn talented.
Right. And also, I mean, let's face the competition. He was, had to play against most of the time as well, too. Although he did, even though there's some bad moments on that Ole Miss tape, there's some good moments there. There's the wow and the wow, type moments on that tape. I just wonder, if there's a team willing to, in those first, let's say 15 picks, willing to draft him with the idea of, we can't hurry this kid along. And do they have the luxury of doing that? I'm not saying that he's not deserving of a top 15 selection. I'm just wondering how many teams would be willing to make him a top 15 selection. Because look, you are not going to do that kid any favors whatsoever, I don't think, if you try to play him much of any during his rookie season. In fact, you could kind of maybe hurt his development, as well too, by, shell shocking him, overloading him way too much. And he might come in initially and just have, that instant first couple of game, kind of success because of, some of those traits, but once defenses figure out what offense is probably trying to do with him and all, that's where I think he's going to run into some trouble. So my biggest question, or my biggest thing with having Pickett over Willis, is from the sheer fact that I think teams are more apt to go with something that they know, and can draft Pickett and get him in his rookie season sooner rather than later, because I just don't think there's too many teams out there that would be able to afford to draft him and let him sit and learn, because he needs reps galore and tutelage galore. He needs a very good quarterback coach and a good offensive coordinator that can maximize the traits that he does have early, and then slowly build on top of it. I don't think he needs to go, and that's the long and short of it. That's why I have Pickett over Willis, because I think teams will look at Pickett as being the more ready guy in there. Now, obviously, there's nothing to say that a team can't draft him and throw him right in there to see what they have, and more than likely that's going to happen if he's drafted in the first, I don't know, top 10, 11, 12 picks or so.
Yeah, I mean, to try to address those points, I think teams are taking the long view with a franchise quarterback. And you're right, Kenny Pickett is a lot more day one ready than Malik Willis. Pickett's coming from a more pro-style system to work with Mark Whipple, who, of course, coached Ben. He was his first quarterback's coach in the NFL and has that background. But I think you're not looking at it from just what will they do year one, but what will they do year 3, year 5, year 10? And that's where I think Willis will ultimately gain that edge from that long-term play. And I know that rookies are playing more and more immediately these days, but you do have Patrick Mahomes sat his rookie year. Lamar Jackson sat for the first half of his rookie season. And so you've seen in those right systems and cultures, guys be able to sit and then play and start full-time year two and really have that time sitting to pay off. Personally, putting aside what you think teams will think, but do you personally have Pickett above Malik Willis?
Just from that factor, I think that, and look, I don't know what he's going to become. I don't know if he's going to. I see the upside of the traits. He extremely mobile quarterback, a guy that can extend the play. And look, I mean, that's in today's NFL. You better have a quarterback that can go off of script, right? But also you have to have a quarterback to some degree that's going to be a pocket passer.
Sure, you have to be able to work from the pocket because you're going to do that still more often than you're going to do it outside the pocket.
Right. I mean, and look, I think I've said this all, since I've dove more heavily into this tape. The traits you can see, I just, can a team maximize those traits and turn them into a franchise quarterback? That's a question, obviously, with, the quarterback position in general. But he obviously, to me, he has the highest, I think, potential ceiling. Sure. The longest way to go from where he is now, could make a hell of a jump if he's able to maximize all those traits. The question is can a team get that out of him?
Right. I think that's the question everyone's asking. I think everyone recognizes Willis has the most traits and upside, but how comfortable are you betting on that is the question. I think in Pittsburgh specifically, it's a good system and a good culture to be for a team willing to allow him to sit. A really good quarterbacks coach, Mike Sullivan, very disciplined, a literal Army background, in his life, and has coached a bunch of quarterbacks and good ones in his career. So I think taking it to Pittsburgh, which is the most important question, it's a good fit for Malik Willis with the Steelers.
It's an excellent fit for the Steelers, knowing how they probably would treat him year one and all, barring something happen like they had happened in 2004 sure. With Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, I can picture Kevin Colbert now in the post-selection press conference saying, look, our intention is not to play him his rookie season. His job is to sit and learn and be the number 3 behind whoever they pick up here in the next couple weeks. And there is going to be someone. Yes. We talked about that the other day, and or Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins. And I can visualize Colbert saying, we're not going to rush this kid along. We want to make sure we maximize him and try to build him into a franchise quarterback. And the only way we're going to do that is by not rushing him along. So that's another reason why, or that's probably one of the main reasons why early on in this pre-draft process, he's often linked to the Steelers, and he's going to be continual from. And look, coming out of this combine after Thursday night, you're going to hear, boy, Malik Willis really killed it at the combine.
And they're probably doing very well in the interview process, which is big for him. Right.
And look, there's that clip circling the internet late on Thursday of him, outside with the cameras not, helping the homeless guy. And, that little stuff, certainly does not hurt, when it comes to that. I just wonder how far he's going to slide, past some of these teams that, man, they really need to get a quarterback in there right now. And, Ron Rivera's come out and said, and this could obviously be in, poker, playing some poker here, but it sounds like Ron Rivera would rather have, either trade for or sign a free agent guy that can come in versus trying to groom a guy. I don't think Washington has time to wait for a guy like Malik Willis to develop. I suppose Carolina maybe could.
Yeah, Matt Rule's on a hot seat though.
Right. So that's another one there. And what's Detroit going to do? I think another team, Atlanta, Atlanta, I guess, would be another type situation, especially if they continue to hold on to Matt Ryan this year, where they could let him sit, a year behind Matt Ryan. So I suppose Atlanta would be an option for them. But once again, how stable is that franchise where the team's going to think, look, we got to have a quarterback that can go now, and all. And if we can't get that with the first round pick, then maybe we need to spend that first round pick on a player that can do that. Detroit obviously just traded for Goff. But obviously they're probably not too terribly married to him. But you know how the cycle of the NFL is now. I mean, if you're not in the playoffs, running deep in the playoffs, in the first 3 years, you're out of there.
Right. But it just takes one team to bet on those traits. I think some team's gonna do that with Willis because the traits in this weaker class really makes him an attractive guy to gamble on.
How far would you be willing to if the Steelers said this is our guy, all right? Mm-hmm. And there's a good chance they might be at that point now. How far is it worth trade? Would you trade next year's first for it?
If the team thinks he's the guy, and if I think he's the guy, and I want to go through the rest of my evaluations, but I'm trending towards that. I was asked this today, would I give a future first? I don't know if I would. I'd be willing to trade. I'd be willing to trade something fairly heavy because, like I said, if you think he's the guy, then he's the guy, and there is no such thing as trading too much on that, in my opinion. But I'd be willing to be aggressive about it, I guess is the best answer I can give you right now.
I mean, what would something like that look like? I mean, they're at
it's a lot
20.
of variables. It's if you're going up to 10, you're going up to 15, you're going up to 5. I mean, it's hard to really answer that.
Right. At some point, you're going to. I mean, you're probably going to have to get up in that. I bounced around with this because of the fact that because I feel I know so much about Malik and how he's going to have to sit that I wonder. I really find myself wondering if there's going to be that one team willing to go ahead and get him in, let's say, that top 12 or 15 area,
I think there will be. That's where I'm at
because you really are gambling on it, but it's a gamble with nice upside if you hit on it,
Mm-hmm. And to me, it's all a gamble. Even the safe quarterbacks,
sure.
all gambles,
right? Because quarterbacks. I mean, if this thing was a science, it'd be a lot easier. So, I'm not even convinced Malik will hit. I just know that in this class, the way this class sits, if there was one that you wanted to bet on being a long-term, new age, mobile, strong arm quarterback that can make plays off script and all like that, it's him.
Yeah, I think it is. And that's why I think he will be the first quarterback off the board and go somewhere, I would say, at least top 15, probably earlier than that, maybe even top 10.
All right. Now, do you, and you obviously got to watch more. I've watched way too much of Carson Strong. I don't even watch any more of Carson Strong right now. I've watched a lot of Pickett. I've watched a lot of Malik Willis. I've watched a lot of Howell, Corral. I need to get more busy on Ritter, but is Ritter the third? Is Ritter the number 3?
Well, it's all mixed up. I mean, there was barely a clear number 1, let alone a number 3, a hierarchy to it. He could be. I mean, I think it'll go loosely Willis, Pickett, and then probably Ritter and Howell fighting for third is the way I see it.
I mean, I think
Corral's in there too, I guess. Yeah.
Right. But Corral to me, and as you mentioned, all these guys for the most part are RPO quarterbacks now, primarily. But Howell's to me, he's a one read guy. If it's not there, I'm pulling it down and running with it, kind of guy there. And I don't think he's going to be the type guy that you're going to want running that much at the NFL level. Corral had a lot of designated runs in his offense there. So, but he was still a primary RPO kind of quarterback, kind of a one read bang 8 type, quarterback in that. Ritter's the one I think that I still got to do a little bit more homework on. I guess what I'm getting at is how many, when it comes to the Steelers, do you feel it's going to be Malik and Pickett or bust? Or do you think, well, we could settle for Ritter or Howell if one of those two are there?
Yeah, I don't know if in their mind they would use the word settle. Just who do they really like? I think they're going to like Howell, maybe Ritter. Again, what they do on the pro day circuit's going to, I think, tell us a lot.
All right, but I have Pickett 1 over Willis because I think he's going to be the first quarterback taken.
But if you had to do a personal rankings of regardless of where they're going to go, but just Dave Bryan's rankings, would Pickett still be number 1?
Just from a long-term, let's put this into context here. This class isn't great.
Sure.
Right. But of the one I tell you the one I'm most interested to see what happens with is Willis, period. Just even if he doesn't wind up a Steelers pick. I'm
right.
more curious because of the traits that he has. And
but I'm asking from
today's NFL, he is the one that I'd be more willing to gamble on if I had the organization where I had the luxury to let him sit a year.
So in your rankings, you would have Willis 1, Pickett 2.
Right. If I was the Steelers GM and was going for the home run.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be the debate for sure. And I hate to use ceilings and floors, but there is, I think, a higher ceiling with Willis, a lower floor, and a lower ceiling with Pickett, and a higher floor is the way I think most people will describe it.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to hate to think that, the Steelers don't get Willis, don't get Pickett, and say, we'll take that one. We'll take that guy. Sure. But Ritter is intriguing, and he is at least I feel like a guy that's a little obviously more seasoned than Willis, and could give you maybe a few of those off script plays, and obviously has the athleticism. I don't think he has the arm strength, and he doesn't have a lot of there's not a lot of wow that I've seen with him, overall. But I mean that the same goes with Howell and Corral as well too.
Yeah, Howell. Wow, I think Howell did make some wow throws down the field. Like some of his placement on those deep balls are really impressive.
Down the side, and really going back to a couple of years too, when he had a couple of good receivers there. Look, he can put it 57 yards down the field, down the sideline for you. There for sure, but it seems like with him, it's that quick slant, that glance route, that kind of stuff. And if it's not there, he's and look, he can give people some of that body of his when he gets out in that second level. But I don't know how much you want a guy like that. Boy, there's some short quarterbacks in this class too.
a lot of density in this class, a lot of mass.
Oh man, you look at the measurements on some of these guys here. And Jack Cohen obviously isn't going to be in any conversation, but 6'3", 2.8 there on him. Strong obviously has size. I don't know if we got official height on him on the show. The NFL Network, they try their best. The NFL tries their best not to give you what all that you want, right? They give you just enough, but they do things that where the 10-yard splits. Are they going to kill you to put some 10-yard splits up there?
Right. Did you see? Sorry to interrupt. Did you see it? They finally did official 40 times for the second group of receivers that just came in a couple minutes ago.
No, I did not.
Do you want to guess what Tyquan Thornton's official time is? Did he break the record? 4.21 unofficial. The official time is.
I'm going to say he did not, just because that it was fast. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to bet it wasn't that fast though.
You would be correct, sir. 4.28 official for Tyquan Thornton. So close, but no cigar for John Ross's 4.22. Yeah, everyone was running fast on the second group.
Who was his second?
The Ohio State.
Olave?
Yeah, 4.39 from 4.26 to 4.39. So that clock was running pretty hot for those guys.
Yeah. Who's Charlie? Casserly?
No, Casserly's retired. They have a new guy. The new guy's struggling. He's not replacing Casserly too well.
Yeah. It looks like. So what was it? What was it on Thornton?
4.28.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's
still fast. It's still 4.28.
You know what fast.
Yeah, the slowest 4.28. Yeah, that really, really good times for him. And just in general, this receiver class, probably a good time to segue it. This receiver class is flying, Dave. I don't know what the official numbers are in terms of guys running sub 4.4, but it's at least half a dozen, if not more, and some really impressive workouts today.
Hey, shout out to Dr. Mel, right? Taekwon's been kind of her guy, if you will, down at, when she's out here in Vegas for the East-West Shrine. Josh, obviously, Carney was hot on Thornton as well, too. And they had a good eye on him, man. I wish I had the clip. I thought I'd put it out on Twitter during one of the discussions that we had Josh and Mel and me during that week there. I thought I'd put it out on Twitter, but I did. I must have tucked it in a DM to one of them. But there's one play where you really, really see that straight line speed with Thornton on the TV tape there. And I wish I could have found that. But I think his hand size came in a little bit bigger than what some people expected as well too. So that was another thing with him was, hand size and just, because he's got that wiry kind of build to him. But, he did make a decent play or two in the East-West Shrine game. Of course, he did show up all week. I thought overall during the East-West Shrine game, how much is that going to help his stock? Well, I think people already knew he was fast, I just think I don't know if they maybe knew he was that fast there. He is a guy that can stretch the field for sure. I still think he's probably, because of this class, he's still probably a fifth or sixth round guy, when it comes to him overall, just because of how deep this class is. There's going to be some teams that get some nice wide receivers in the third and fourth round this year. And boy, the Steelers sure could use some of that speed, couldn't they?
They certainly could. And I wonder what the history is of guys who run sub 4.3. What's the latest a guy who's run that kind of time been taken? I think of an Anthony Schwartz last year. Where did Schwartz go last year? Was he third, fifth? Where did I don't know if he was even as good as Thornton is this year. And as Schwartz went to the Browns, he was third round pick, 91 overall. And that was a deep class last year too. So I understand it's a deep class this year. I think Thornton, though, he might be a late day 2, maybe early day 3 guy, because when you run 4.28 at his size with other good testing, 36-inch vert, 10 plus on the broad,
and he made plays, and the tape's there. The tape down the field is there with him. Had a lot of explosive plays, and obviously a lot of explosive plays with the air yards more than 25 yards down the field. So that's one of the things that I kind of researched back during the Shrine Week when there was buzz about him there. So probably late 4th, 5th round, maybe right around in there for him.
Should mention, and I'm checking this now, someone asked me earlier, I wanted to look up the timeline to make sure it fit before I said anything. Let me just check it here live. Frisbee Jackson was his receivers coach. It looked like he recruited him to Baylor first 2 years there, 2018, 2019. So that's probably Taekwon Thornton with a 4.28. Probably a name Steelers fans should even be taking a closer look at now.
Hey, after not taking a wide receiver last year, and the problem is the draft capital.
Sure,
but
they're going to draft a receiver, assuming they lose,
right?
Especially they lose Juju.
But I want them to draft 2.
2 I think is pushing it.
And one of them I want to be Sky Moore at this point now, most definitely too.
It's a big club,
and it's that's a big club, and it's not hard to connect the dots there, right? Shady Side Academy kid. Went to school with Dino Tomlin. Mike Tomlin already knows this kid inside and out. He played safety and corner, I believe, mostly in high school, was recruited to Western Michigan, I think, initially as a defensive back, and then got in there, and they said, oh, by the way, you're moving to receiver. And boy, that kid, he's small, 5, not even 5'10". What is he, 5'9" and 5'8" or something? What do you officially?
Yes, 5095, 195, but 10.25 hands on that frame is ridiculous.
Some lobster crackers, right?
Yeah,
you posted that earlier. That's if you're going to lose James Washington, nice to get a guy with some oven mitts like him. I don't know how much you watched of him, Alex. Can play all three spots really if you need him to. But NFL. Probably going to be best suited in the slot, can stretch the field out of the slot, can get off the line against man coverage. And another good thing is he's good after the catch, and he's kind of a hard player to bring down. And, with those big hands, not too much gets past him either there. So a little bit undersized, but man, the numbers that he put in, at the combine kind of reconfirm, everything that's on tape there. And I think Daniel Jeremiah was the one, I was kind of, is he second or third round, going into maybe this week or last week and a half. But now I think it's going to be somebody's going to get him in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, it looks like second round probably for Sky Moore. So maybe Pittsburgh would have a chance at pick 50. If they lose Juju, that could be a slot replacement there. His release packages, his size, his hands, his testing, the MAC guys, production overall. Certainly could see that fit there with Sky Moore and the Steelers.
All right, so let's see. They don't have a fifth, though, do they?
No, they do not have a fifth.
It'd be a perfect time to have that fifth, wouldn't it?
To what, double dip at receiver?
Yeah, really, really would. Unless
they somehow finagle a comp pick, which we don't believe is the case, but
right. But they are going to get another. Let's see,
two fourths.
They're going to have 1/4 as part of the comp, right?
Yeah, they still have an original fourth, I believe, and they'll have a comp pick for assuming it's a fourth for Bud Dupree.
All right.
Not a third.
I don't know. Spend one of them fourths on Thornton, and the second round pick on Sky Moore. I could be sold on that.
Yeah, just hard to double dip though when you have so little draft capital, but it'll depend a lot on obviously what's happened prior to the draft and what occurs in free agency. Maybe the fact they'll have more money in free agency to spend and bring in more talent could allow them flexibility to double dip. But I think usually you only do that when you have 8+ draft picks.
True or false? They will draft a wide receiver within the first 3 rounds of the draft.
Man, free agency will be a better crystal ball to answer that after the 16th. I'll say it's close. I'll say true right now. It made me answer that, even though I did not have that in my first mock draft.
I will say true as well too. There, but Tyler Wise is.
I was just gonna say.
What's his name? Watson out of North Dakota State. Boy, the RRAS number that kid's got going. And the Cincinnati kid, Alec.
Pierce, yeah.
Yeah, Pierce put on a good showing there. It really is a good year to be in the market for a wide receiver. And I have a feeling though that it's going to be more of a slot guy, unfortunately.
Me too. Assuming they lose Juju.
And it's probably with good cause, because if indeed they do lose Juju, you don't want, assuming they sign Ray McLeod, you don't want that to be your go-to guy there. So
yeah, but the question is what kind of slot receiver, the shifty one or the Juju one? Like what type of slot receiver?
Yeah, I would hope they get a shifty one.
Yeah,
one that you can also use vertically.
Right, but that's where Sky Moore fits. Is he can kind of do both because he has the hands and the twitch and the release package and again decent size, not tall, but like a bigger dude, like well built. I think like a really good upper body, like built well for his frame.
And you can move him around. Like I said, you can put him in, he can play all. I think he's smart enough too that he can play all 3 positions if you need. Now, obviously he's not going to make a living, I don't think, as a Z, but I think you could put him out there,
Sure, you can move him around. I think he's smart, has the experience, has the release package to get up press and that's really important. That not a lot of college receivers have because they don't usually see it, and he did a good job.
He's going to be a popular mock draft selection.
Yeah, it's him. It's Connor Heyward.
Connor Heyward's another one's going to be easy to link to him. Obviously, Malik, if you can figure out maybe how to, I suppose, work out a trade. I have yet to do my first mock draft, and it's obviously coming after the combine there. And I think I put out there a while ago, man, I'm buying all the smoke when it comes to the Steelers and Malik Willis. The only question is how do they go about getting there?
Yeah, that'll be the question that we'll be talking about up until draft day on the 28th. Official numbers on Christian Watson coming in. Actually, I don't think we have an official height, but about 6'4", 208, 4.36 official 40 after a 4.28 unofficial, 38.5-inch vert, 11.4 broad, a perfect 10 in the RAS score. And so that's a guy that is not going to make it out of day 2.
Here's the thing. What happens if you don't get a quarterback in this year's draft?
My philosophy is you go heavy offensive line and you really build up that O-line. So whenever you do draft a quarterback, presumably in 2023, your O-line's like set and you're good to go. And then you can be more aggressive to trade up for the quarterback because you feel like you have your line built and you can really hone in on that position.
You would also have to, time would be slipping away. So next year's draft, if that was the draft, then you'd have to hopefully go after one that's more NFL ready, right?
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, the early projections are next year's class will be stronger. I'm always hesitant with that stuff because so much can change a year from now. But yeah, I think that's an accurate way to phrase it.
All right. I'm going to try to find every way imaginable. I hate predicting trades, man. I hate it. Yeah. I hate trying to do that in a mock. But if I mock them at 20, I would get it anyway. Whoever I put in there, I'm going to get. He's not going to be there on all 7 or all 7 picks. But if I mocked him at number 20 tomorrow, I'd get a lot of no way he's going to be there at 20. So I guess I'm going to have to break out a trade chart and try to see what something would look like that way.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the first mock, though, just to see kind of where your head's at. And obviously things can and will change.
Well, you already named a bunch of them. A lot of them are easy. I mean, you got Sky Moore is going to be my second-round pick. Connor Heyward, just trying to figure out where to put him. Is he 6th or 7th round? I mean, look, he is what he is, right? And that's a fullback H-back. And, occasionally you could put him on a line of scrimmage, but he's not going to make a living blocking 4-3 base defensive ends.
Right. Yeah, he's 5'11". He's not an inline tight end. He's an H-back, fullback, special teamer.
So can that be had in the 7th round?
Yeah, I think 7th round is where I would put him. He had a good day today. Really fluid in drills, caught the ball well, tracked it over his shoulder, 4.72 for the position, solid. So like a really good day for Connor Heyward.
Man, he really was productive at Michigan State. They weren't afraid to hand him the football either.
Yeah, even the kick returns. Like he was, like you said, like a weapon in the offensive game. He's not like a Derek Watt lead block only kind of dude. This guy can, be part of your boot game and maybe screen game and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I remembered it, but Derek Watt didn't even scratch the kind of offensive production that Hayward had. When Watt was at Wisconsin versus Hayward at Michigan State. I mean, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, I'm looking at Watt's times. Watt didn't actually test terribly. A 4.77 at 6'2", 33.5-inch vert, 9.8 broad. But just Hayward to me is just a more natural catcher, a more fluid player overall.
I'm trying to think who else am I destined to put in there.
Quentin Lake, probably.
Yeah, good call. Probably.
Those are your 7th round picks right there. Hayward and Lake.
Yeah, it'll be easy to, and it usually is. Look, I mean, a lot of the Steelers stuff, at least, and usually my initial gut with these mock drafts as of late, I should do one and then just call it quits.
Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to figure out if Troy's nephew's in this draft or not. I cannot get a straight answer on that.
Yeah, that's weird, right? Because there was just a picture. I think was it his agency or somebody tweeted out
a trainer. I think it was.
Was it? Yeah, that. And look, he's not at the combine, right? So right. Probably going to be an undrafted. Another guy who I wouldn't mind is going to get lost in all this too is my kid out of Utah State and all as well too. Because man, I mean, I really wished I can't wait to see the Utah State Pro Day to see what he runs.
Yeah, I wish you would have been at the combine with the fast times. You would have run like a 3.8, with the way they were doing it.
3.97.
Right.
But all right, what else wide receivers stuck out to you?
Yeah, Kevin Austin, Memphis, and I knew he was going to test well. He's a track guy, and so he's
super twitchy.
Yeah, twitchy, quick dude. I want to see if there's agility times on him. I'm sure he crushed those as well. But yeah, 4.3, 240, 39-inch vert, 11.3 broad. Size is an issue. It's small, but it's not like, someone said, don't let Tutu Atwell, scare you off Calvin Austin. Atwell was like a $148. Austin's 170 and fairly built. So I don't think it's much of a one-to-one comparison there. Austin's on the low end of the scale of size, but he's not at the Atwell level. But I mean, that's a guy that you knew would look good in this environment because of his background. So it is, as Mayock like to say, you want to be careful not counting it twice. But Austin overall is an impressive prospect.
And then, this kid named Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. We name off all these names. You still got a quality player in Dotson that, once again, some teams are going to get some gifts there in the third or fourth round. Danny Gray out of SMU is a good-looking kid. Obviously, the Ohio State kids, and they'll be gone early, right? And Jalen Tolbert, a kid that you're a little bit high on, I think, ahead of the Senior Bowl, right? Is going to be a nice catch for somebody in the third or fourth round. Trying to go down. The Georgia kid put up. George Pickens is going to be another nice grab for somebody in the fourth round. You start stacking up. All these wide receivers. Some of them are going to fall.
Yeah, they always.
Drake London still hasn't, fully recovered, and he's considered one of the top wide receivers in this year's class. You have the Alabama kid coming off of that, Jameson Williamson coming off that knee injury that we haven't even accounted for. So, and it's not like, you might have 6 or 7 wide receivers around drafted at least in the first 2 rounds at most.
Yeah, and Treylon Burks got dragged for only running a 4.55 at 225. That's a great time. He had a good workout overall, and that's a potential first-round guy, even conceivably maybe the first receiver off of the board.
Okay, so definitely. I think a big takeaway coming out at this point of where I'm at in this process right now is, man, this is a good wide receiver class.
Yeah, and it's been in the past, and it probably will be in the future just because of the nature of the college game, the spread game. Receivers run rampant. Everyone's looking for receivers and boosting offenses. And so generally, I think you're going to continue to get strong receiver classes. But this is a good – it doesn't have the number one like clear-cut guy, but it is a deep class where you're going to find a lot of talent on day 2.
And as far as the undercut, you even have Justin Ross, who I don't think he's still trying to recover from something, and he didn't even work at the combine this week. So, Lord knows the Steelers need some offensive playmakers, right?
Yeah, they do, and hopefully they add it. And I don't think they'll have a lot of choices to add. So let's transition to the tight end group. And again, it's not a spectacular class, but a really solid and similar to the receivers, a deep class. There'll be a lot of talent in that day 2, early day 3 range. What tight end stuck out to you, Dave?
Well, I think it depends on what flavor do you like.
Sure.
And that's the good thing I think about this tight end class is there are a couple of more kind of traditional guys that you would look for. Jake Ferguson being one of those out of Wisconsin that I've watched a little bit of tape on so far. Obviously, a lot of people should know about Cole Turner from us talking about Nevada, or me talking about Nevada all for the last calendar year there. He's obviously more of that wide receiver type tight end. Chig, you want to talk about props to Josh Carney? Chig, go ahead and say it.
I believe it's a Okonkwo.
Okonkwo, there you go. The Steelers will end up drafting him late to
it'll be him and Freiermuth. Good luck with that, Dave.
Can I buy a vowel? Can I buy a consonant? Chick put on a good showing, and not that the Steelers, I don't think, going to be in the market of spending a draft pick on a tight end, but one or two of these guys might end up going undrafted. That could potentially wind up as undrafted free agents for the Steelers. You got a kid like that Tiguan Coriano out of Oregon State. I've seen a little bit on him as well too. So I think it's a good year for the Steelers not to have to be in the market for a tight end, but for teams that are in the market for a tight end, there's a lot of those third, fourth, fifth round guys that I think can make plays and play a lot of downs for them.
Yeah, I feel like there are a couple more well-rounded kind of Y inline tight ends than there have been in years past, whether that's a Daniel Bellinger from San Diego State who ran well, tested overall, I thought, well for how big, and he's not as long as I thought he would be with his 6'5", 253 frame, only 32.5-inch arms, but overall just a well-rounded tight end. Trey McBride, Greg Dulcich is a little probably less refined as a blocker, but good size, good testing. Overall, just a good group. I thought Jelani Woods, talk about a guy that really tested well, legit 6'7", 253, 34.5-inch arms, 4.61 in the 40, 24 on the bar, did well as a blocker, caught the ball well. And that's a guy I don't know much about, to be honest, but that's a guy I need to go learn more about.
You can move him around. I know that just from the Shrine stuff and all like that. So
Okay.
I don't think he's as polished of a blocker as an inline guy overall, but he definitely has a size. If he can work on staying low, I think there's a possibility there.
Yeah, so again, it's not an amazing tight end class, but it's solid, and there'll be, again, not that Pittsburgh's really going to be looking for this, they won't, but day 2 you'll find some talent there at tight end.
And then once again, being the kind of what he fits best group in. That's why Connor Hayward's in that group, but not so much as a traditional tight end. Now he is no Jalen Samuels tight end, but I'm going to forever have fun with that. But someone's going to get a good player in Connor Heyward that can contribute at least on special teams in his first season. And look, even if he's a guy that I could envision the Steelers drafting him, putting him on the practice squad, and then that guy end up being your the guy that takes over for Derek Watt in 2023.
Yeah, or even beat him out at the end of camp this year, where they both go to camp, and if Hayward's a comparable option and a cheaper one, then they may choose Hayward over Watt. I could see that being the case. That'd be a choice for the team to make. Which brother you want to take? You want to take Derek Watt or Connor Heyward?
Right. And look, I mean, I know it's going to be or continue to be talked, but I mean, Derek Watt's worth what he makes because of what he does on special teams.
Yeah, he's a very good special teamer, a 4-phase core guy, and led the team in tackles with, I think, 11 total last year, or maybe even 13. So, I mean, that's where he makes his mark.
I'm excited tonight, ain't I?
It's combine.
This is Diet Mountain Dew. Tonight's Diet Mountain Dew night, so I'm all hopped up on the Diet Mountain Dew. That's why I'm coming at you like a spider monkey tonight. But
Sounds like I know the reference, but it feels like every night is Diet Mountain Dew night in the Big Brian house.
It's out of the
Monster.
The Monster drinks.
Yeah.
The only thing is I don't have any of those cold right now.
Get water. Getting water in your system.
I know. There are a lot of things I need to do.
That's also true.
Anyway. Let's see. What else do we have? We hit tight ends. The Steelers continue to meet with players at the combine. Our own Jonathan Heitritter is there doing a great job out there. We've got quite a list of running list on SteelersDepot.com of as best we can tell of what was formal and informal. And is the limit still like, what was it, 60 or did they lower it down to 45? Do you remember what the...
Yeah, they've changed it. I'd have to look.
It was
60. 15-minute 60, yeah.
And I think they lowered that, didn't they? Seems like they did.
That rings a bell. I don't know the number. It might have been 45, but I can try to look it up.
I want to...
60 to reduce 60 to 45, yeah.
Okay, so 45 formals and an unlimited amount of informals.
Yeah, it looks like it's 45 18-minute. Used to be 60 15-minute interviews, and now it's 45. So we already get a pretty good list of the 45. And again, it's you take with a grain of salt, but it is good and to be thorough and have this for housekeeping.
Part of the Blues Clues, like we like to say.
Yeah, just some notable ones here. I'm not going to read off every single one, but it's on Steelers Depot. You guys can check it out. Quarterback Matt Corral, Howell, Ritter, Pickett, Willis. We don't know if that's formal or informal. I'm betting they had a formal interview with Malik Willis. Why would you not? If they were that interested in him, which I assume they are. Not much at running back. No surprise there. Receiver, Jahan Dotson, Sky Moore, informal. David Bell from Purdue. Pickens, Garrett Wilson, Danny Gray, Christian Watson. Connor Heyward met with tight ends coach Alfredo Roberts. Maybe that's kind of some insight on where Pittsburgh Could view him and a slew of offensive linemen. Those guys work out on Friday, highlighted by Kenyon Green, Tyler Linderbaum, Charles Cross, Alec Lindstrom, Rasheed Walker, Tyler Smith, Bernhard Raymond, and Trevor Penning. Informal interview with the Steelers, reportedly.
All right, and that group of offensive linemen and running backs will be up next on Friday for us to watch in the Underwear Olympics.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. Should be a good day. Anything else from the day one of the combine you want to make mention of, Dave?
Let me see if anything else sticks out here. And we're not going to be talking a lot about this tight end group moving forward. I don't think we will save obviously the offensive, the rest of these groups on Monday and I'm sure Wednesday as well too, recapping more of what happens there. So with that, let's end the combine part of the portion and let's add Cameron Heyward held a couple of interviews on NFL Network. Had a few interesting things to say, did he not?
Yeah, obviously a lot of focus about him watching his brother, so there was a lot of conversation about that. I'm not sure if one thing stuck out. I knew you had written about his references to Tuitt being back with his defense. I want to be a little careful of that, but that may be subtly another sign that Tuitt may be back with Pittsburgh in 2022. Yeah,
and he wasn't pressed. A good reporter would have pressed him on those comments by including, basically, in long story short, he was asked. Hayward was asked, do they think they have what it takes, past Ben Roethlisberger to compete in 2022? And Hayward obviously said yes. And then he went right into, look, we have the defense, defensive player of the year, Minkah Fitzpatrick, started naming off all names. He says, myself, Stephon Tuitt, Tyson Alualu, and, is that just him? Is that just an optimistic Cameron Heyward?
Right.
Or is this Cameron Heyward, good buddy of Stephon Tuitt, that might know a little something here?
But the Steelers don't seem to know. And if Hayward knew, then the Steelers would probably know as well. That's why I'm hesitant with those comments.
So, and that's why you got to be careful with how, and I titled the post seemingly, right? Mm-hmm. So, not a definitive in there, but, I tell you, listening to that interview live, that's the first thing that stuck out when he mentioned Stephon Tuitt's name. I went right to that portion of it. So once again, is it him? Is it just optimistic that Tuitt's going to be part of that? We don't know yet. We're probably not going to know for several more weeks there. But I thought that was at least interesting that he did include that in there. And then obviously, and I think something that you wrote about, Cameron Heyward's all on board on Mike Tomlin's quarterback needing mobility.
Yeah, I want to go back to Tuitt here and just, there was another comment that Hayward made. I can clip this. Again, I was a little hesitant to run with it because I get the sense that Hayward doesn't know if Tuitt's coming back because, again, the team doesn't seem to know, but it may just be like that's obviously his good buddy and just wants to make sure he's including him if Tuitt wants to come back. It doesn't feel like if he doesn't mention his name, it's like they've forgotten about him. But when Hayward was on the Pat McAfee show the day before, so this would have been Wednesday, he's talking about his optimism for the defense getting better, about guys getting healthier. And he said, quote, I look for guys like Tyson to come back, of course, referring to Tyson Alualu, Tuitt to come back, Alex Highsmith to be even better, Devin Bush to continue to grow. Another reference there to Tuitt, specifically to come back. So, Again, I want to be careful. Hayward last year in camp said Tuitt's going to be ready for week one. That obviously did not happen. So I don't feel like Hayward knows, but that is another reference to what you're talking about.
All right. So we'll see if that, if that ended up being smoke that led to the fire.
Right. We shall see. But with Hayward's comments about mobility, I said basically it's not a fluke. Quarterbacks need to be mobile, and Hayward embraced the notion of it. And I'm sure all the years of chasing around Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, even Baker Mayfield, Hayward understands the value and the headache quarterback mobility can bring.
Absolutely. And Mike Tomlin has talked so much about mobility now. It'll be so surprising at this point if they don't add some mobility to that room.
Yeah, I'm sure they will in some form or fashion, probably with a vet and potentially with a draft pick as well.
The further I get into this thing, I'm starting to think it's going to be Both.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a veteran. I think they wanted to get a rookie, but the question of will they just be able to do it picking at pick 20?
I think it's going to be BOFF, both.
Both. There you go. Anything else from Cam? It was good to hear from him. I mean, he's a good interview. I don't know if that was
look, he's going to be another one of those guys. And I think that's going to be a natural at that thing after his playing days are over. But not that he's going to need the money, I don't think. But if he decided to go that route, I think he could pull it off.
Should mention one more thing from the Combine. It is an event where the entire NFL is in one place, so there are a lot of talking and interviews and things like that. Adam Schefter reporting earlier this week, I believe that was on Wednesday, that the Steelers have interviewed Louis Riddick for their GM position. That's not new to us necessarily. That's been reported for over a month now, about a month now. But the question is this his first or second interview with the team? And there's some conflicting information, so I'm still unsure. I'm under the assumption it's a first interview, but it may be a second.
I am under the impression, after trying to parse through it all, that this ended up being the first time.
Right. The reason why I said it could be the second is because Jonathan, who's there, and I don't know the whole story of this, but apparently spoke with Adam Schefter about this, and Schefter confirmed this was a second interview. These are Jonathan's words. And so that's, I mean, I trust Jonathan there. I assume that's true, but it is weird because Schobert said they weren't doing second interviews until after the draft. Whenever Schefter tweeted the list of interviews the Steelers had about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, Riddick was not on that list. Schefter never tweeted out it was a second interview. If he was a second interview and a finalist, that'd be certainly notable information. So perhaps they did like a brief Zoom call a couple weeks ago, just a hey, how you doing kind of thing, then decided let's just talk and actually sit down face to face at the Combine. I don't know. I still feel like it's at least in the sense that Riddick is not necessarily yet a finalist, even if it was maybe technically a second interview.
Maybe this was the formal.
Yeah, maybe this was the formal.
Now, look, here's one thing, and I don't think the team's obligated to do this, but the team has been good about announcing these things as they happen, and this was the first time that they've officially acknowledged the Riddick interview, right?
Correct. That's another point of why I think it's a first interview, and if it was a second interview in terms of like a finalist, and they weren't going to do any others until May, why would you do the second interview with Riddick now? That's so far out. So it just, and again, Schobert literally said second interviews will not occur until after the draft because that's when they want Tomlin involved and to really like go knee deep into who you are and what you're going to do to potentially run this team.
All right, so we'll see obviously how that plays out from here, and we're probably not going to get an answer to that till after the draft anyway.
Yes, and we'll see if he interviews again after the draft, and that's all that really matters for that. Anything else, Dave, you want to touch on before we get to read emails and close out today's show?
Seem like we're missing something here, right?
Well, we do want to hear from our friends at MyBookie before we get to read emails, but I'm not sure from a news standpoint if there was anything else pressing. Real quick on Willis, do you have any opinion on Willis's comment about being unsure if he's a good fit for Pittsburgh? I think it's a non-story. Where do you come in?
I just think he did a poor job of answering that specific question.
Yeah, I think he was a bit honest, just saying like I need to learn more.
I don't know too
much.
And he should have phrased it that way. He said, "Look, I don't know." I feel he could have answered the question better. The way he should have said, "Look, I'm not really sure what kind of offense what they're going to ask me to do." Now, in other interviews too, and I thought he gave a very good one for that at the CBS HQ sit down the other day there. I thought he did a much better job in that, saying, "Look, I'm just going to be what teams want me to be." In so many words, I forget exactly how he paraphrased it, but I've never been an NFL quarterback before. In so many words. So if you want a good counterbalance kind of interview based on that one, either go and find a whole Malik Combine interview, and it wasn't all that enlightening anyway. I didn't think. I thought the 5-minute interview that you can find on CBS Sports HQ with those 3 or 4 guys was much better for him. And I believe he was on Sirius XM radio on Moving the Chains on one of those, but I've yet to listen to that interview. I just think it was one of those sound clips that kind of a little bit gets taken out of context maybe. And I just think he did a bad job of answering that specific question, and that happens. It wasn't. I didn't view him as being just nonchalant about it. You know, I just think he failed to. He just gave he didn't word his answer correctly.
Yeah, it was just a very blunt answer, and that can come off maybe the wrong way to some people, but I have no issue with it, and it's a non-concern for me.
Yeah, some people are trying to frame it like, he doesn't even know what kind of offense they're going to run. You know, it's being framed as him not really giving a damn. You know, right. I guess more than anything.
Right, but that's fine. It's not a story to me.
All right, you mentioned our friends at MyBookie. Look, the NFL football season is over with, but you know what's going on right now? NBA basketball, college basketball, the Final Four is right around. The NHL is obviously, the Penguins. Break up the Penguins, right? I mean, that team's playing some good hockey right now. The NHL going on right now. Don't look like we're going to have baseball right now. But whatever you're looking to gamble on right now, even with football season being over, you can do so at MyBookie and MyBookie.ag. At MyBookie, you can bet on all your favorite sports with exclusive promotions, contests, and more. Even the UFC stuff, you can bet on that there as well too. Find your winning bet right now. When you make your first deposit with MyBookie, you'll instantly receive double your first deposit. It's easy to get that. All you have to do is to go to mybookie.ag, sign up using promo code Terrible. You should know that by now. Terrible. And MyBookie will double your first deposit instantly up to $1,000. How's that for fast money? Use your funds right away. And you can bet on, once again, the NBA. March Madness is almost here. Perfect time to set up your MyBookie.ag account with that right there. This promotion is only available for a little bit longer for a limited time, so don't miss out. Head to MyBookie.ag and use promo code Terrible and secure your double deposit bonus today. That's promo code Terrible, so you can double your funds to double your winnings. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie at MyBookie.ag. Tomorrow, Alex, by the way, is the 365th episode of the Terrible Take.
Yeah, Dave, I noticed that in my 365th Terrible Take, or the site's 365th Terrible Take, will be on Kenny Pickett's hand size. If you haven't heard about it already, you'll get another 2 minutes of that information.
What was the first one about? Do you remember? You did the first one, didn't you?
I can look. I want to say it was on maybe something with Najee Harris, actually, or like the size of running backs. Let me pull up my Word document. Let's see. First one was on, Najee Harris's age, actually, and why I was not concerned about his age.
So we have gone from Najee Harris's age to Kenny Pickett's hands in a year.
Yeah, yearly first-round pick check-in, I guess, is how we're doing this.
That's pretty. Look, you and I dreamed this thing, dreamed that kind of thing up a little over a year ago when I was in Pittsburgh visiting with you, and it's turned out to be a pretty good thing. I hope people enjoy it. Just in case you haven't, if you listen to this podcast, hopefully you get these dumped in your feed and you probably know what we're talking about. But if you haven't listened to them, and it's gotten to the point now, I think Alex does 3 of them a week. I do 2 of them a week. Dr. Mel does 1 on Sunday, and Alexa Della Rocca has been real good about doing the Saturday ones, and occasionally we'll have other people like Josh Carney sit in and do them like he did when I was on vacation there as well too. So tomorrow is the 365th episode. So 1 year old is the Terrible Take. Congratulations,
all right,
Alex.
Good deal. Let's get to reader emails and close out today's show.
Got a few of them in here. Let's see. Garrett Goldberg writes in, with Devin Bush struggling and Schobert likely gone, the team is like, oh, by the way, I have an announcement to make. My salary cap sheet is balanced.
Nice. Good job.
And it took me about an hour to figure out what the NFLPA switched over to the 2022 rule of 51, and the way they're still calculating some things with the void contracts of Ben Roethlisberger, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Eric Ebron kind kind of threw me off the way they were accounting for things there, but I finally figured it out, and I finally figured out that $17,000 credit that's been keeping me up late at night as well too. So I was, you probably figured it out. I was very euphoric yesterday. If only I would have died last night, I would have been had a really, really clear conscience at that point. But I did live, and onward we go for more salary cap, probably out of balances in the future there. But I'm very good. I'm very proud of myself.
No, you should be. I know that like eats you up inside. So I'm glad you were able to find some internal peace with that. I should mention really briefly, I saw an article pop up on my timeline with Cam Heyward. I think it was on the Pat McAfee show. He was mentioning about how he loves going against like 290-pound centers and just bullying him. I'm like, you know who your starting center is, right? it's the 290-pound center. So I had to laugh at that comment that Heyward made.
Yeah, and then Tyler Lindenbaum's another one that's going to be undersized when he hits the NFL too. The more, the further we get away, the further we get into this draft process and the Steelers' needs and which way they're likely to go and all like that, I've got a feeling that Tyler Lindenbaum's not going to be in the Steelers' future here.
Yeah, I'm leaning a bit towards that. Will he weigh in tomorrow? He's not practicing, he's not working out with the foot sprain. I know that, but I assume he'll at least weigh in, and hopefully we'll get it because we can barely even get weigh-ins this year. It's just been super frustrating. Charles Robinson taking the year off.
The last thing that's right. Charles Robinson has normally been good for that kind of stuff. The last kind of report we have on him is 6'2" and a quarter, 290 pounds.
Okay, but he wasn't at an All-Star game, right?
Right. I think that came off of draftscout.com, and they normally do a good job of kind of, now that might have been I don't know if that was his listed college weight there, but Draft Scout usually does a good job of with that database and keeping things updated on that. So we should have some sort of updated. I don't know if we'll have the true height on him, but we should have the weight on him for sure by tomorrow.
Well, hopefully, I mean, because it'll have to be like Daniel Jeremiah tweeting that out, because if he's not going to test or work out, it's not going to ever come up on screen when they go through the workouts on NFL Network. So we're going to have to hope that one of those guys do it, which maybe they will because he's a top prospect.
Yeah, but it's been on the NFL.com sites, at least updating the correct weights. Yeah.
Okay, the correct weights. Okay.
Right. Now, they're not posting the correct heights to the eighth all the time, but when matching that up on the combine coverage through what the NFL.com has been putting out there with the three groups of quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends, the weights have been right.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. You'd think in 2022 we could just get heights and weights, but apparently just weights.
You think you could get 10-yard splits, and you could think you could get somebody from minimum wage to stick around and put in these 20-yard, 60-yard shuttle times.
They better do 10 splits for the linemen on Friday.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big number.
You know what? If you and I ran that thing, it'd be done already. It'd be done 3 times already if it was up to us. But you get what you pay for, I guess. I don't know. All right, back to the email machine there. By the way, the Steelers are just a hair under. What did I say? They are under. Hold on a minute.
28-ish million.
I will tell you.
But yeah, you tell me. You have it to the penny.
And actually, this is one of those times where even over the cap is right on the money right now. Now, by on the money, I mean on the money with all the voids figured correctly and with the workout bonus placeholder put in. Now, that obviously hasn't been hit yet. That'll probably hit sometime in April. But the Steelers, based on a $208.2 million cap number, that we should figure out whether or not that's going to be the real number here in another week or two. 28,731,582 under the cap. 28731,582. You're Big Prices Right fan, aren't you?
Yeah, give me $1.
Have you watched that YouTube documentary of the contestant that knew too much or whatnot on YouTube?
No, I'm not. I know. What was this one about?
Yeah,
the one that like guessed all the prices, like just like memorize what everything costs on the showcase.
Yeah, this
thing?
guy was a constant guy that would always go to the tapings and all like that.
Oh.
He kept databases of.
Is it you? Is it a relation related to the Tim Price? That feels like a cousin.
It's something I would probably do, right?
Yeah, sounds like
you have got to watch that, Alex. One of these nights there. It is very, very entertaining. Price is Right kind of documentary of the guy who knew too much. So
have you ever seen the documentary on the guy who found out the method to pressure luck, the original pressure luck in
No,
the
I have
80s?
not.
Yeah, he knew because of the way they did the board, the show Pressure Luck, right? No whammies, that whole thing.
Yeah. That's way before you were born.
I know. I've been watching some Game Show Network growing up, but the way the board was, it was in a pattern, and so it was like only like 5 different variations of it. So the guy memorized at home the pattern, got on the show, and so knew when to press the buttons to avoid the whammies and get the big prizes. So he won like $150,000 or something like that, something ridiculous, and he got to keep it. They thought he was cheating, but they realized he just knew the system, and he got to keep all this stuff. Actually, had a sad story. Kind of his life, I think, was ruined after that. So not a good ending, but that's another story there.
And then you had that recent clip of Wheel of Fortune that went viral. Did you see that where they couldn't solve that?
Yeah, that's wild.
All right, so we have gone from Combine and we have managed to make it to Wheel of Fortune here. If I had more time, I'd ask you how the dating app stuff is going, but
too bad we are out of time.
Don't tell them your hand size. Don't tell the girls your hand size.
You're pressing your luck over there, Dave.
All right, to the email machine we go. I promise you, no more. Patting Dave on the back here or anything. Garrett Goldberg writes in, with Devin Bush struggling and Schobert likely gone, the team is lacking a signal caller and depth and inside linebacker. If the team doesn't decide to go quarterback for whatever reason and they don't like what offensive line are available, could they address linebacker in round 1? It's too early to pin down names, so I do really like Nakobe Dean, he says. Just wondering how much you'd rank the likelihood of drafting other positions after quarterback and offensive line. Thanks, guys. Love the podcast, Garrett G. Garrett, I definitely understand the question there. Never say never. That's one thing I have learned. I'm not going to sit here and tell you there's absolutely no way that the team's going to draft an inside linebacker in the first round. But, if quarterback is there that they don't like, and if maybe, the top tackle or top 3 tackles and guard off the board, I mean, a guy like Dean sure is an impressive player for sure. If you were going to go that route, and that guy was there, that would probably be the way to go, right?
Yeah, I mean, that checks a lot of boxes. There's also Devin Lloyd from Utah that is in that Devin Bush mold, but I think was certainly more of a playmaker in college than Devin Bush was. So I could see both of those guys being in the mix. Obviously, free agency will be a guide in terms of what positions are filled and which are still open post free agency. I probably would see something in the secondary to be a more likely add than off-ball linebacker in the first round. But it's possible if all those scenarios play out the way the reader's asking.
Garrett, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I would be surprised if I'll just put it to you this way. I will be surprised if their first-round draft pick is a defensive player, period.
Yeah, I would be as well. But if you want to play devil's advocate and say, listen, we know our offense, no matter what we do, is probably not going to be that good in 2022, your defense better be really strong. So in theory, you could argue like, let's load up this defense and play 2019 all over and try to win a bunch of games 17-14.
Garrett, as Alex and I have said several times, these next 3 weeks are going to paint a lot better picture. And I was just thinking about this last night as well, too. And I think we kind of hit on it the other day. Kevin Colbert does not, he'll do just enough in free agency and re-signings of their own to kind of cover his bases so he doesn't absolutely feel pressured to take a specific position. Not that he's not above going need, or perceived need, obviously more than want, but there's going to be enough moves in these next 3 weeks that's going to give Kevin Colbert some flexibility with some of those picks. Now, a couple of these, as Alex and I kind of reviewed the other day, there's probably going to be two maybe highly notable free agent signings. And then, I think where you see probably a little bit more of this year is kind of that middle class signing, if you will. And then obviously, the very lower end annual Kevin Colbert dumpster diving ads and all like that. But they will add just enough that it won't necessarily pigeonhole them in a certain areas. Or now, I think one of the most curious things, and Alex and I hit on this the other day, is what's going to happen with Joe Schobert. On paper, Joe Schobert's an easy cut right now at his salary. But could they convince him maybe to take half that amount to stay on? Is it worth having him at half the rate? Or is Joe Schobert just going to say, look, I know my time's short here anyway. I want to go play for a team that I know that I'm going to be the defensive captain in the middle of that thing and make my $5 million or whatever,
Is there any chance they do nothing and they just keep him at that number the way that they might be doing with Banner? And I say that because they're not so cap strapped. They feel like we don't have to do that kind of stuff as opposed to if we were really up against the cap. Is that a possibility? I mean, anything's possible. I suppose that's a bad question for me to ask, but is that even like a 5% chance of happening?
5%? Man, I see, this is where I get caught up because there's I know what they should do, and then I know the situation that they're in the cap and not being cap strapped. Here's the thing: do you want that guy stepping on a practice field making that kind of money at his? The same goes with Banner too. $5 million. You want that out there on a practice field and a knee injury away of being stuck with that on the paying for nothing throughout the year. They already paid for nothing once with him,
Right. But Colbert's comments seem to at least indicate they may keep Banner at his current number, correct? That seemed to be something he was implying.
Yeah, but I suppose there's at least a 5% chance. I mean, you put it that low.
Right. My point is, if he's opening the door for Banner being kept at 5, then you could justify keeping Schobert for 8.75 because at least the dude's playing and starting for you, and you know what you have in him.
I'll put it to you this way. I'll be surprised if within a week after the draft that Joe Schobert's on this roster at his current number.
Okay. Yeah.
They might carry him up until the draft,
What's the point of even doing that? Because
why was the point of doing it with Morgan Burnett and I forget when they cut John Bostic was cut before, wasn't he? Wasn't Bostic cut?
It might have been right after the draft. I think it was like right the day, like day 3 of the draft after it wrapped up, I want to say. But those were smaller numbers, at least. Schobert would free up a lot of free agent, cap space for you to go spend.
Well, we'll have, needless to say, as I was telling Garrett there, this picture that's going to be painted for us in this next 3 weeks, I think will help clear up a few things. Not, and once again, it'll be enough put in there that that at certain positions that'll let you know they're not going that position, and then a couple other positions where maybe that can wait kind of situation. Mm-hmm. But going back to the original thing there with what he said, I'll be surprised if this team drafts a defensive player in the first round. Period. End of story.
Me too.
Jim Bendis is back in our email machine. He says, it seems like the Steelers really like Dobbs. At least he seemed to have Ben's ear when Ben was with the team. I recall they often talked, and Dobbs suggested a big play to Ben last season. Question he has, if Joshua Dobbs is not brought back as the number 4 quarterback, could he come to camp as a coaching intern to help with the assumed rookie quarterback to get him up to NFL speed and conditioning? Jim, I have a feeling if Joshua, I think it's too early for Dobbs to be, and if he's still, I don't see him coming in and being any kind of coaching intern or anything like that. If he was to one day be in that, I think he would need to be removed from the, I'd need to go cut his teeth maybe at, at some lower, maybe some college stuff or internship at another organization and then come back to the organization that way. I'll tell you this, that kid really loves space and rockets and, that kind of thing. So whenever his football career does end, I think that's going to be his passion and his life's work from there. Not saying that he probably wouldn't be good at You know, because look at Byron Leftwich. You know, who would have really thought that Byron Leftwich would have become an offensive coordinator? I never saw that coming.
Yeah, and probably someday soon a head coach.
Right.
I didn't know that inkling, but that's great for him. Yeah, I mean, Dobbs, I think, will be a great coach if he wants to pursue it. But I think, he probably wants to keep playing football as a quarterback and doesn't want to, like, retire unless he truly has no options, no opportunities. And if not, then you're right. He has his passion for NASA and space, and he may pursue that route. It pays better, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Here's the thing that I think that could potentially happen with Dobbs and the Steelers is if they get out of the draft and don't have that fourth quarterback under contract at that point now. And then they re-sign him to another qualifying veteran benefit deal, just like he signed last year. And he would then be the fourth quarterback. Once again, we expect this team to have 4 quarterbacks this offseason. They currently have 1 under contract. They'll have another 1 under contract when Haskins gets tendered. I'm getting a stronger feeling by the day that they're going to bring 1 in via free agency on the cheap and then draft 1 on top of it. So that'll be the 4. But if they come out of that draft with still just 3 quarterbacks, I could then see Dobbs being signed to be the 4th.
Yeah, that's possible. I think it's probably a most likely path for him to return. I guess those odds aren't great in that scenario you're laying out. But yeah, I mean, if they don't get a quarterback in the draft, I can certainly see that.
All right. Today, has NFL.com updated any more stuff with these wide receivers?
They have. I'm inputting some of the numbers right now on the shuttle times. On the short shuttle, Calvin Austin, 4:07, the best of all the receivers. So again, not a surprise given the quick twitch, smaller nature of him, but 4:07, I don't know where that stacks up historically, but I'm sure that is a 90th plus percentile time at 4:07.
Sky Moore, 4.32 on the 20.
Very good time.
On the short shuttle. That's a good time. What about the 3 cones?
Kevin Austin, 6'7", Bo Melton, 6'9", Alec Pierce, 7'13" at his size is impressive. Sky Moore, 7'13" as well. Where's Kevin Austin? Looks like he did not do it. Surprised by that. He probably would have put up a good number. But
all right,
yeah. Bo Melton. That's a guy we could talk about more. He's got a good senior boy. He's quick. He's explosive. Can separate 6'9", 3 cone. That's decent size. That's a guy that gets lost in the shuffle of receivers. But I like Bo Melton. Yeah,
once again, I mean, 4th, 5th round, there's going to be some quality wide receivers teams get later on in this draft. I think that's, once again, I think that's one of my biggest takeaways from the Thursday night combine session. All right, if you haven't figured it out, Alex and I, how many years have you and I been doing the combine stuff together now, man? God,
probably since 2015, I'm guessing, my first full year with the
it sure is good to get back filling in them spreadsheets like that. I really enjoy that kind of stuff like that. But anyway, you and I will be tracking that again throughout the rest of the week. If you are looking for that, the spreadsheet should be easy to find on SteelersDepot.com with all the results there. Alex and I try to update those things as in real time as they get there and all in one place. On top of it, Jonathan Heitritter will continue. He's at the combine this week, and a lot of good articles and him talking to players there as well too, and finding out who the Steelers are meeting with. All that can be found at SteelersDepot.com. We appreciate his hard work as well too. And before we get off this show, wanted to shout out our very own Alexa Delarocco. She is going in for her chest biopsy tomorrow, so praying for her on that as well too. She's a very gifted young lady that does a lot of good work. Look, she had a terrible take. What was it, a week ago Saturday on Mitch Trubisky? Talking about the possibility of him being a fit. That, and 2 days later after that, I think is when really the latest round of the Steelers could be highly attracted to Mitch started there. So Alexa, we're praying for you. We love you, and With that, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you want an ad-free version, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button. You can make a donation by going to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button as well, too. So, Alex, I appreciate it. I'm out of Diet Mountain Dew right now, so I guess it's time to end this show. So, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Pod. Go measure your hand, Alex. Thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.